everyone. It's another episode of Why This Matter. I don't know, I feel really good today and I think it's a good day. So, Why This Matter, Why Disability, Inclusion and Sustainability Matter is a media-based project brought to you by Inclusive Friends Association. And we bring this to you every Friday, 2 p.m. on our YouTube channel and our Facebook channel. So, Why This Matter? It's a project that Inclusive Friends feels is important we bring to the public to help amplify, promote the rights, relevance, dignity of persons with disability. With me today, I have a very important person. I call him the walking encyclopedia. By the time we continue on this conversation, you would understand why I call him the walking encyclopedia. I think I should just let him introduce himself.
First, I would say I'm blushing.
It's a lie, you don't mind him.
All right, Oluwaseyi Moses, thank you very much for having me on this platform.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, so we will just quickly delve into the matter of the day, and that's talking about the policies that protect the rights of persons with disability.
All right, thanks one more time. So, proud to January 2019. It's been a 12-year struggle in ensuring that there's a policy, a law that protects the rights of persons with disability. Ahead of this period, what we've had over the years are treaties from the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disability, which Nigeria is a signatory to. This has been part of the provisions and the constitution that talks about human rights. But come January 23 of 2019, the President Muhammadu Buhari, actually accepted to a document that made it legally binding, and that document is Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Act 2018. And since then, we have a document that the community of persons with disability can engage citizens, institutions, and the public.
That's really nice. So, in my own little definition, we can say the act is our Bible.
Absolutely, very correct.
Oh, that's good. So, at every point in time, sometimes I sit and I think, when we look at discriminations, and of course we just talked about the policies that can be put in place and which the Disability Act is what would help us to put all of those things in place. I'm looking at those buildings. I'm talking about accessibility right now. I'm looking at those buildings that are not accessible. So what part of that act talks about maybe the penalty for people that have not put those buildings in place, maybe everything around accessibility for persons with disability.
So just like you said earlier, you used one of the holy books to qualify the act. So it's all encompassing. And just to summarize there, to say that the act itself has 8 parts and it has 51 sessions.
Right.
So it's all encompassing. But clearly the act in part 2 talks about physical accessibility. Now, the physical accessibility, the Ministry of Works and Housing are actually saddled with the responsibility in ensuring that physical accessibility are available across all public structures. Now, buildings that have been in existence ahead of the 2019 January 23rd, before it was signed into law, has a transitional period of 5 years where they are expected to modify their structure to be accessible, to become compliant with the law. And any building from 2019, especially public buildings, are expected to meet up with required standard, at least having ramps and handrails to enable persons with disability, with physical disability, perhaps on a wheelchair, to be able to access such structures seamlessly, even to lifts that will be there. They're expected to be braille and also to have voice, to be voice inclined, so that persons who are visually impaired can, of course, access such building independently.
Okay. So right now, we talked about people that the people that if you do not have a law, or if you're not aware of something and you fail or you commit a crime, maybe they might not probably penalize you for it. So do you think people even know about this act? Do you think people know about this section of the act? Because I've gone into offices, I've gone into really big organizations, and all of these things you're saying are not being put in place. So are we saying our advocacy hasn't gotten to the point that they start knowing? Because 2023 is the end of the 5 years.
You actually just nailed it, Wumi. The truth of the matter is that this Disability Act is actually a tripartite approach,
right,
which of course it requires community of persons with disability. It also requires the private sector and requires government agencies. So these three bodies are actually expected to come together and everybody plays his own part. Now there are different parts of the law, but just like we're talking about the physical accessibility today, so it is the responsibility of Ministry of Works and Housing to ensure that public buildings are accessible.
Okay.
And also, if you talk about issues of knowledge, that's talking about awareness. I will delve a little bit to say it is the responsibility, as it is enshrined in Part 1 of the Act, of the Ministry of Information to ensure that there's adequate information for the public to know about the Disability Act itself. Right. And beyond that, like I talked about tripartite, it is also the responsibility of civil society organizations, especially organizations of persons with disabilities, that's
absolutely,
the OPDs,
yes,
to continue to have continuous engagement with government agencies, implementing agencies, especially private institutions that, of course, have public engagement each and every day, and as well community of persons with disability to continue to talk about the issues, to engage themselves with knowledge, arm themselves with adequate knowledge, so that this information and implementation is done swiftly.
So, I think I read a little of the act, and it talked about a sanction. I think it's important we let the public know about that sanction. So don't you think so?
I agree, and this time I would like to come to the grassroots where I will say ignorance no be excuse. I don't know, no reach court of law.
So
that one are your business. So of course, Part 1 of the law also talks about the sanction. So and this sanction cut across violators or anyone say that you have not put these things in place, you have violated.
Yeah.
Once there's no accessibility, is a violation. And of course, for public institutions, they are sanctioned with 1 million naira.
Wow.
Yeah, you might think 1 million naira is small, but of course, let us start somewhere. And of course, an average individual might think, thank God, it's only public institution. I would like to say, you are also part of it. So, Wumi, if you commit any act of violation as an individual, you are also saddled with a sanction of 100,000 naira. And in fact, that's about 10 people, that's about 8 or 7 people's minimum wage in Nigeria at 18,000 naira for one person to pay that. And it doesn't end there. The person go wear agbada. When they say person wear agbada, the person becomes Joseph, because the person is sanctioned with also 6 months imprisonment. So of course, by not just putting required facilities in place, 100,000, 6 months imprisonment, I rather put all of those systems in place.
That's
really important.
And again, you look at it, I would say it's actually humanity for you to also put certain things in place. Let's forget about the money, let's forget about the sanctions. If I want, creating a reasonable accommodation for someone that is like me. So if I feel a person's ability for him to gain access to my building, I think it's humanity. It's actually something that you shouldn't even be forced.
Absolutely, Wumi, I agree with you, it's humanity. But the truth of the matter is, from the disability community, we are gradually moving away from the charity model, which of course sees provision of systems and facilities for persons with disability as humanity, but to a right-based approach. the same way you have created facilities and systems for persons without disability, it is a right that you make these provisions for persons with disability. So I would not want us to encourage the humanity part of it. Let us see it from a right-based approach so that everybody knows it. You know, do it like this, not
this is what it
yes, that's what it was.
So I was just thinking aloud the other day, and you know, for a person without disability, the COVID itself, the coming of COVID actually cost a lot.
No be small thing. No?
And we're looking at the economic aspect that has actually brought like little production or even no production.
Absolutely.
Little resources or even no resources.
I agree.
Talk more of person with disability.
Wow.
What policies are in place to ensure that there's an inclusion for a person with disability on employment, on availability of resources, please?
So clearly, from what you just said, it's good we say it here that the impact of any absence of system is double on a person with disability.
Absolutely.
So it is double. So, but the act, like I said, is all encompassing, and part 6 of the act, especially section 28 and 29, talks about right to work. So the act makes that provision that a person with a disability have the right to work and have the right and opportunity to be employed. And the truth of it is, if I was not employed now, sincerely, I would have want to say look for one of the disability clusters and fall into. It's just that mine has not been captured.
I do not understand why you will say. I think you should identify with you.
No, I identify with my disability status, which of course is vertically challenged. But the act does not consider us yet. but obviously, Wumi, there's a 5% that is allocated. Every public employment makes provision for 5% for persons with disability. Now the large question is, have these been in place? You and I cannot answer a yes or a no, because you agree with me that it's in recent time we've not had any information about public employment that is ongoing. So, but there are provisions, and that is why I say in a tripartite approach, every stakeholder begin to engage in order to ensure that their rights are delivered. Remember, even for Freetown, no free lunch.
No free lunch.
Demand for your rights.
Yes, so that means we have 5%. So not even come 2023, by now we should have been seeing organizations putting all of those things in place, making sure that in their employment quota, 5% is kept separately for persons with disability. Is that what you're trying to say, Sheyi?
Absolutely. It is not until it's 5, the transition period says 5 years, but enforcement commences before the end of the 5 years.
Yes.
So from now you can sanction anyone who is found defaulting from the provision of the law. So the Ministry of Labour and Employment is also part of the implementing agency, like those who are in charge of government employment in Nigeria. So there are different agencies that are responsible for implementing this act. But of course today, because of time, we've been able to talk about the Ministry of Works, talking about physical accessibility, talking about information in terms of awareness, and as well we've delved into Ministry of Works, Labour and Employment. So they are responsible for that. But any public employment must make provision for 5%. So that also means that community of persons with disability also need to rebrand themselves. They need to also ensure their capacity is developed to the level of being employed.
Wow, my. So when I started earlier on, I said there's someone in the studio with me, a walking what encyclopedia. Sheyi, come on.
I heard the boss.
Are you for real? He's trying to be modest. I'm sure we've learned a lot of things today. I have also learned quite a lot of things. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much for me.
And we will be doing this again Friday, 2 p.m. Do not forget to follow us on our social media platform like YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter as well, and Instagram as well. Do not forget to like, to share, and comment. See you same time next week.
Thank
Bye
you very
for
much.
now.
All right, thanks.
Bricks Beats.